All right, Don, Iowa, Minnesota, Saturday, 2:30 p.m. Central Time. Kick in BC. Battle for the Floyd of Rosedale. It'd be Iowa's third trophy they get this year. Of course, they've had this trophy for seems like the last decade. PJ Fleck has not had much success against Iowa, and his team is down right now. What does Iowa need to do to avoid a down performance coming off a big win on the road?
I would say this. It's typically this for us, whether we're home or away. Need to start fast. We're not good at playing from behind. I don't care if we're in Kinnick. We're still not good at playing from behind. So let's hope that we don't have to do that. And let's never lose sight of the fact, if you're the underdog, understand this. If you allow them to play with any kind of lead, at some point you will get a fanatical effort out of them, because they might have started the game not expecting that they could win it, but now you've emboldened them by giving them a chance to play from in front. And at that point, you're going to see a fanatical effort out of a team that hasn't been able to win many football games. So that would certainly apply to Minnesota. If they're able to get off to a good start, we're going to see a fanatical effort out of the Gophers. We don't need that. We need to try to discourage them as early and as often as we can.
And what does Iowa do, Don, that has made this such a one-sided series since PJ took over?
Well, last year's game's a pretty good example. We've beaten them with non-traditional touchdowns, sometimes special team touchdowns, sometimes defensive scores. We've beaten them with turnovers. Was it last year or 2 years ago? They outrushed us by 200 yards. I think it was last year. How many guys named you beat someone that outrushes you by 200?
Actually, this is an interesting. It's funny you bring that up. It was the last 2 years. If you go back and look at your analytics from the last 2 years, I believe the analytics say that Iowa should have lost both of those games. They found a way to win both of those games. 2 years ago is Alex Padilla that won that game behind a bad stat line. And then last year, of course, we know Mo Ibrahim went off on Iowa, and the Hawks found a way to win.
Yeah, we know that turnovers always make a difference. I'd be willing to bet if you looked at those last 2 years, we probably beat them on turnovers both years. It's just difficult to win when the other team outrushes you by a huge number. It hardly ever happens. And the prime example, usually if you outrush an opponent by 100 yards in the Big Ten, I'd be willing to bet you over the last 20 years, Corey, if you outrush someone by 100 yards, you win at least 85% of the time, maybe 90. 200 yards for sure is in the 90s. It simply doesn't happen. You got to be lucky to pull it off. And last year we were lucky, and for that matter, Minnesota beat Northwestern in all kinds of statistical areas and still managed to lose. So the good news, you heard me say even for the Wisconsin game, Corey, we don't have to outrush Wisconsin to beat them, but the numbers have to be at least competitive. I'd say the same thing regarding Minnesota. Now, this team is different than the recent teams, but we don't have to outrush Minnesota to beat them. It would help if we would do that, obviously, because frankly, we should outrush them because our rush defense appears to be better than theirs, and maybe our rush offense is even better than theirs. So
that we haven't said. When's the last time we've said that about Iowa, Minnesota?
Yeah. So there's all kinds of reasons we should win this game, but it all starts with us not beating ourselves, something we almost always accomplish. But I said almost always. Our goal is to never let it happen any other way. And there have been a few games in recent years where we were able to shoot ourselves in the foot. I hope this team is smart enough to know that. It's smart enough to take steps to never let it happen again.
Iowa, Minnesota, Saturday, 2:30 p.m. Central Time. Erica wants to know, final super chat, final chat of the day. Can Don tell us a Hayden Fry story before we go? Or let me finish the question for Erica. Can Don tell us a Hayden Fry story before we go to bed?
Oh, gosh, one that relates to the Gophers?
Oh, just a Hayden Fry story in general, Don.
In general, gosh, I hardly know where to start. I know since we were talking about playing different quarterbacks, I remember we're getting ready to play the Kickoff Classic. It's the only game on TV that day. It's played in the Meadowlands. And, of course, here we are saying, I don't know if we said it before the game or not, but we knew what the plan was. I don't know if Coach let Tennessee know what the plan was, but three quarterbacks played that day. Everybody remembers Dan McGuire because, as Hayden said, he could throw a football through a car wash and the ball would never even get wet. That's how hard he could throw a football. But as you already know, it's not. You don't measure a passer by passing velocity because that's not as important as accuracy or being able to pick the right receiver. So McGuire played the first 20 minutes. Then a guy named Tom Maholsky that came in. Incidentally, Tom Maholsky Jr. is on our football team right now. And I know I'm happy to see Tommy on the practice field because I asked him the other day, am I okay to call you Tommy? Because that's what I always called your dad. And he said, absolutely, Coach. I'd be honored if you'd call me Tommy. Because one reason I'm here is because my dad had a great experience at Iowa. And then last but not least, the guy that played the last 20 minutes of the game was the guy that was named Chuck Hartley. He was only the third quarterback on that day. And you might recall he made a play that really ultimately ended up costing us. We were down the goal line. It was a fourth down play. It was an option play. And he knew he was about to go down with the football. So he made, in many ways, a very logical thought process. His thought process was, I can't score. Maybe the pitchman can score. He pitched late to the pitchman. The ball was intercepted by Tennessee. It went 98 or 99 yards the other way. I don't recall for sure that it was the difference in the game, but obviously it had a huge impact on the game. But the rest of that story, maybe within the next 3 weeks or so, Chuck Hartley became our starting quarterback and ended up, of course, I believe, as a two-time All-Big Ten quarterback. So one reason Chuck was able to earn that job is because he was given a chance to prove in games that he was better than the other two. And that's the opportunity I'm sure that Joey Labus and Marco Linez would love to have sometime over the rest of the season. They're probably not going to get that opportunity, of course, but I'm sure they'd love to have that chance. And it's easier to do it in game one, of course, than it is in game 8.
And Tommy Paholski.
Tommy realizes he's not going to get that opportunity anytime soon because he's even further down the depth chart than the other two.
Yep. We'll talk to you after Iowa, Minnesota. You'll be in Kinnick, and we'll be here live following the game, hopefully talking about a 7-1 start and a Floyd of Rosedale trophy remaining in the great city of Iowa City. So, Don, we'll look forward to it.